Well, we have our first preliminary capital budget meeting. So welcome, everyone. It's good to see the chambers full, even if most of it is staff, but it is good to see it full. I'd like to call a meeting to order. This meeting's been called for the purpose of consideration of the 2023 to 2027 capital budget. The meeting is for information and discussion purposes only. No decisions will be made as the capital budget approval is scheduled for the regular meeting of council on December 15th, 2022. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording of this meeting will also be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. Let's jump right into it. We got a big night. Disclosure of conflict of interest. No disclosures? All right, budget discussion. We'll now go through the budget page by page and ask that the appropriate staff member respond to questions on council. And we are going to go through, I'll call out the pages, starting on page 1 for information technology. And Chris Gratton is via Zoom here tonight. So I'm going to ask him to come forward and make his presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. This budget, there's really only 3 line items that have changed from the years previous, and they all revolve around door security, camera security, and network connectivity to some of our remote locations that are currently run by hotspots. The first one is ICT 0018. And this is for camera installations for aquatics and complex. The next is ICT 0030, and this is for door security at 2 locations, Southside Park Shop and Springbank. And the last one is ICT 0034, which is fiber connectivity to 4 locations throughout the city. That being 1459 Devonshire, 192 Old Wellington South, 895 Ridge Sportsplex, and 1191 Springbank Avenue. And I welcome any questions.
Any question of council? So again, page 1, Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the chair, through to Chris Gratton. I guess just in general, purpose knowledge, has the time span or life expectancy of any kind of electronics or computers been extended over time, or are we still looking at a fairly consistent replacement timetable?
Through the mayor to the councillor's question, actually the lifespan of electronics is decreased. There used to be a 5-year cycle on equipment, and now it's down to 3 to 4 years lifespan.
So going through page by page, I'll start with page 1. No questions on that. Page 2. And we got page 3. Before we move along. No questions? Oh, Councillor Wheaton.
Through the chair to Chris Gratton, the very final item, ITC 00034. I'm assuming that fiber optics is all brand new installation. It's not a replacement.
Through the mayor to the councillor's question, yes, you're absolutely right. Part of the big cost in getting these is some of these locations are pretty far off main roads, and there is no fiber connectivity there. So partially the installation costs and the lighting up of the circuits for those locations. So it's a one-time cost. After that is a monthly hit of roughly $139 per site per month.
Any other questions for Chris in IT? No? Okay. Moving along, we'll go to pages 4 to 7 for fleet and equipment, and Mr. Locke, if you don't mind coming up.
replacement loader and EQU 10, 340,000 there. And a building department pickup truck, which we may be into a smaller vehicle, may not be a pickup truck, but it'll be, sorry. Is that better? Oh, yes. Okay. So I will maybe not quite that. Yeah, so that's the ones that are in 2023, and happy to answer any questions on that page.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your mayor, I just had a question about the replace garbage trucks.
Okay.
0005. So it looks like for 2024, a replacement, and I was wondering if that had anything to do with potential organic waste pickup in the foreseeable future, or if this would be a new garbage truck and then we'd have to assess. I know it's not a for sure, but I just wanted to have an understanding about that
Yeah.
replacement.
Thank you. Through your worship to the councilor's question. We have, you can see that there's one in each year there, and that may be modified based on the outcomes of where we're going with organics. As I've mentioned, maybe you weren't on council at that point, but as I've mentioned to council in the past, there's some studies going on right now where we're looking into that. There's also the producer responsibility with recycling, and that's all factors into whether we would move forward with trucks and in what year we would move forward with them and how we'd move forward. So that's why they're, you know, we expect in 2024 we'll have the understanding of where we're moving, so we'll be able to move forward one way or another. So if it may come out at that point, but it may stay in as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Tate.
Just through the chair, just to clarify for the counselor, so we are gonna do it, we just don't know who's delivering it. So that's why we don't have anything in the budget yet. So it depending when the study comes out, who's the cheapest one, if we are, then you'll bring it forward, correct?
So that, yes, that's correct. So the producer responsibility again is handled by the people that make the products, and we won't have much say in that. There's RFPs out there right now. In the 2023 year and the 2024 year, we change in the 2025 year at the end of the year. So we're up in the air on recycling right now. So we'll find that out over the course of time as that information gets worked out. So I think we are lucky though that we get to see some other areas happen first, so.
All right, let's move along to page 5.
So on page 5, just to highlight on 2023, we have a replacement sweeper. 400,000 there. I'll just maybe take the next page as well. Parks replace trailer, 20,000. So that's just end of life cycle. We have a new Bobcat skid steer there. I don't know whether Brian has any comments on that, but I believe it's in relationship to the golf course property, the new piece. Is that accurate?
That's the sports fields.
Okay, so that is in the sports fields. My apologies. And then we have a new pickup truck. That's the golf course property one, right? Yes, sorry. And the last page, we have the new area wide mower, and that is also golf course property. And we have a new asphalt hot box. It's new. We're looking at a new methodology of doing asphalt repair. So we're moving from a recycler to asphalt. We can carry more product and be more efficient. And I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Councillor questions, Councillor Sandberg.
Sure, from the mayor through to Dan. I guess my first question is maybe to explain the difference between 0049, which is something that can be purchased from development charges, versus 043, which is going to be purchased through reserve funds, both being upcoming items.
49, and which was the other one? I'm
So
sorry.
just about at 43.
43. Okay, so the difference between the DC funding is one is related to growth. And so it's an addition to the complement of what we have. And the other one is a strictly replacement from reserves. So as we go along, we contribute to the replacement the value of the replacement in our reserves. And when the time comes to replace it through the life cycle period, we have the money funded in our reserves to do that.
Councillor Tate.
Through the chair, the presentation, I'm not going to ask specifics, I promise, but so once you have a look at the different trucks for leaf pickup, so just for council's benefit, we'd had a discussion that maybe we're short a truck. And if you decide, would you decide within this year, would we be able to add it to the budget this year?
So through you, your worship, to the councilor's question, we're actually going down tomorrow or up to Waterloo tomorrow to look at a different vacuum system. A couple of the issues that we're trying to solve is currently the units we have, you vac it up and you walk where the leaves used to be, very slippery, issues that way. It's a long haul for anybody walking the city, and you're swinging this thing back. They have hydraulic ones, so we're going to look at one of these, a little bit newer technology. It's not overly expensive, but I would expect that if it's something that we want to look into going forward, we would put a report together and bring that to council. Probably be outside of the budget process. Maybe we know by the time December 15th rolls around, it could be added to that agenda as well, so it could be included in there.
And just for the council benefit, I had a conversation with a couple of people down at the border works, and we were lucky this year because we didn't have any snow, but normally we use those trucks for snow removal too. So I think the thought was look at something so we don't get behind like we do normal years, correct?
Yeah, so the multiple trucks that we have now, this would potentially do twice or 3 times the amount of work with it. So it could reduce the amount of this crew size, if you will.
So I'm just trying to do an argument so when it comes forward that we get it approved.
Any other questions for Mr. Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you through the chair. And I apologize, I might ask this type of question a couple of times tonight. I see the street sweeper on as a one-time in this 5-year capital budget. What is a reasonable life expectation on a piece of unit like that? How often are we going to see you come back and ask for anything?
So our life cycle on our street sweepers are 10 years. 10 years.
Any other questions for fleet and equipment? Mr. Locke. Councillor Schadenberg.
From the chair through to Dan Locke, is there any much of a value right now in resale of some of this equipment after it's done its lifespan with the city of Woodstock?
Through you, your worship, to the councilor's question. Yes, we actively auction our equipment off, especially the replacement ones. It's part of the equation is to auction it off after we have the new unit in place that takes that work on. I usually like to keep them for a little bit of period of time till we have the staff trained. If it's a new technology, staff trained, they're in it, they get comfortable with it, and we can ensure that it's working properly and doesn't need to go back for something. So then we auction it off once we have that peace of mind.
Anything further?
Uh-oh.
Councillor Wheaton.
Or to ask the question, and this might be a financial question, where does that money go when we auction off equipment?
Through the councilor's question, we have a account in the revenue fund budget for any proceeds that we put on that we receive on used equipment sales, and then we end up putting that back into our equipment reserve so that the funds are available for replacement.
Anything further? Thank you, Mr. Luck. Appreciate that. Mr. DeHaan. We'll go to page 8 for traffic signals and crossing protection. And we'll have you up here for a while.
We don't have to. Yeah, I didn't really prepare any summaries or anything like that, other than unlike my other 2 co-workers. So I'm just going to leave it open for questions if you don't mind.
It's fine with me. We'll go page by page then and see if council has any questions. We'll start with page 8. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go along to page 9 to 14, which is infrastructure and roads, starting with 9 and 10. Any questions on either of those two? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Harold. I guess my first question would be about the Butler Street Bridge. A projection for 2024, I would guess would be to rebuild the bridge, but still spending 125 in 2023. Would that be an assessment of the bridge?
Your worship, through the councillor, that is correct.
I'm just going to ask council for everybody's reference. When you ask a question, please reference the number so everybody can follow along to make it a little bit easier, as well as for staff. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Pages 9 and 10. All right, seeing none. We'll go along 11 and 12. Councillor Lauder.
On page 12 and number INF 00067 sidewalk reconstruction Huron Street. Can you just tell me what part? I understand it's south of Dundas Street, which I thought that changed. So could you just explain that what's going to be happening there? Because I thought Huron Street was all done.
Your worship, you are correct, and we actually just realized that today that we probably should have changed. It's part of the same project. The county's been working their way south for a couple of years now. And as part of that, we are paying 50% of the reconstruction of the sidewalk because it's even though the road is the upper tier, pedestrian traffic is the responsibility of the lower tier, which is why we're paying for 50% of the sidewalk reconstruction. But yes, you're right. It will be the next section going south and include if I remember correctly, I think the southern limit now is Huntsfield.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Tate.
Through the chair, sorry, I forgot on page 10, the very bottom one, number 50, Miller Street reconstruction. So my beef's always been, we've always been behind the streets. If we brought that forward a year instead of from the budget, would that be a problem to staff and our staff that we have that have to be there?
Your worship, through the councillor, yes, we could incorporate that into the 2023 capital program. As the councillor mentioned, right now our road program is about 3.4, 3.6 million. The asset management plan says it should be over 6 million. Asphalt, we should be over 2 million. We're at 1.6, and crack sealing, we're about half of what we should be spending also. So as if we can move projects forward, I think we can handle it in terms of workload. And if we can handle it in terms of the funding, then I think we should do that.
Just further through the chair, then at the time we do consideration, I'll probably bring it forward because as we've seen, we're way behind on our road reconstruction. Thank you.
Councillor Wismer.
Through the chair to Mr. Hahn, just curious, on page number 12, item 65, the Southside Park Road driving lanes. What does this work entail exactly, and what is this? Are we talking the driving lanes that go through the park? Is there outside lanes that are in this? Just curious as to what that would all entail.
Your worship, through the councillor, quick overview is, yes, it is the driving lanes inside Southside Park. I'm not sure if Parks wants to elaborate on that a little bit more. We're kind of stick handling that project for them. Chris, did you? Nothing? Yes, 3 phases, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Councillor Schadenberg.
Back to page number 10 and project 0045, and that would be Dundas Street reconstruction, Oxford to Van Sittert. I guess 2 questions. When that street's done, that there will be stoplights put in at Van Sittert and Dundas?
Worship, your worship, through the councillor, yes, that is correct. As part of this project here is tied in with the in the traffic signal section, which one was it? Oh, the last one, TRF 0005, which is new traffic signals. So we were planning on using both of those account numbers to pay for that project.
I guess my quick follow-up to that would be specifically what's going on right now at Gibbons and Dundas. Is that sort of a head start to next year's project?
Your worship, through the council, I'm going to let Doug's been handling that project.
That's the start.
Actually, we can't hear you back here. I'm sorry. Do you mind coming forward then? If anybody's going to speak, just for everybody at home as well, I would ask them to. Thank you.
Through your worship, to the council's question. So Duke and Gibbons was just started this year to get out of Dundas Street, and it's actually a carryover project for next year. So it was tendered, and it's just unfortunately we got behind schedule, so.
Thank you. I will just finish it up to go to page 14 if anybody has any questions. Councillor Lauder.
Yes, through the mayor to Mr. Dahan on info 00127, excess soil management. Can you just explain what that's about? I know we've been told.
Yes,
this-
your worship, through the councillor. Yeah, that's a provincial requirement that they came out with 2 years ago now, which basically says that any project that, and it applies across the board to municipal work or private work, any project that has soil leave a site. The soil has to be tested and it has to be tracked on where it goes, and we need to keep records of that. Now, we had money in last year also, but then they delayed the implementation for municipalities. But however, it's going to go back into effect, or it will go into effect January of this year. So what that requires is that we do soil sampling and environmental testing on all our road reconstruction projects, depending on the information that's found, any contaminations that will direct on how we put a plan together on where that soil goes and what tracking needs to happen in terms of that soil.
Thank you. This is a lot of extra work for each of your projects.
Your worship, through council, yes, it is.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Wheaton.
Through the chair, item INF 00138 downtown revitalization, $15-ish million over 5 years, but I don't see anything in 2023.
Your worship, through the councillor. Yeah, I think the plan there was, I think, to give council a chance to settle in, and then we would start the project, at least the money in for 2024 is engineering, and then after that is subsequent years for construction.
Last call on infrastructure and roads. Any questions? Okay, we'll move along. Starting page 15, sanitary sewers. Mr. Dahan.
Your worship, yeah, 15, sanitary sewers in the next section, water main, are basically, these are projects that, as you know, we're a two-tiered system, and the county owns the water and the sanitary sewer systems. And, but in order to get efficiencies, we do a lot of sanitary and water main work on behalf of the county. When we do a road reconstruction, a lot of times that project is actually driven by the underground work. So we replace the sanitary sewer and the water main as part of our road reconstructions. So then the county then reimburses us. So that's usually basically the first one is work that's done in conjunction with the road reconstruction. Then you get the miscellaneous projects that happen. Where again, we would do the work on behalf of the county and they would reimburse us. And then the next two ones for sanitary are servicing of the southeast Woodstock and servicing of the north east Woodstock on both the water main and sanitary. Those, as you know, that refers to the lands that were annexed. The southeast refers to lands that were annexed from Norwich Township a couple of years ago. So that's development that it would help develop those lands in terms for industrial use. And the northeast area is the old Corlett and Elliott farms located north of Dundas, the other side of the 401. Just to develop those into industrial lands also.
Any questions on either one of those from council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Anyone have any questions on page 17 for street lighting? Unless there's something you'd like to highlight. Mr. Dehan?
No, I think, project listed there fairly self-explanatory. One, you may want to notice that new streetlights, we have a program in place where we, so the money for next year would be Finkel and industrial. Right now, there's no street lighting along there. And then street lighting upgrades Wilson, again, that's another project that we're doing in conjunction with the county. As part of their reconstruction of Wilson Street, we are going to be upgrading the street light poles also and the wiring along there.
Any questions from council? Councillor Shanberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Harold. I guess I got two questions about the, well, I call them sort of dark streets when it's obviously in the middle of the night, but Piddock Park Road up to the conservation area from the crescent there, Marshall Crescent, I guess it's called. And also Oxford Road 4, kind of in the area sort of in front of Sakura House. Very, very dark areas for what's technically municipal streets now, even though they're not really, they don't have curbs and they don't have sidewalks, but they can be very dark streets. Any timetable for those projects to happen, or what would need to happen for those to happen?
Your worship, through the councillor, actually, Piddock Park Road, we have, that's the number in for new streetlights unlit areas. That's the 2025 is the scheduled year for that area. And then the project above that, new streetlights, County Road 4, I think you meant that. You can see we're hoping to put streetlights in along County Road 4 in 3 phases, starting in 2024.
Councillor Leatherwell.
Through you, Mayor, I have a similar question in terms of lighting. By Duke and Gibbons, where they're about to do the construction, it's very dark there right by the train track as well. So I don't know if it's slated for a light there or if there's a proximity to be assessed. I don't know how to word the question properly to just say that it's a very dark area, right? Specifically around the train tracks, just at the end of Duke.
Your worship, through the councillor, I'll make a note to take a look at it. I know that we have been talking with the rail company there about improvements to the crossing. So that might be another improvement that they may require.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Dehan, I don't see it here, but I'm pretty sure I read in there, and maybe you mentioned it and I missed it. Was Finkel between with Juliana, I think it is there, in Athlone. Is that slated for lights? I thought it was, because that's a really dark street right by the hospital, especially. Is that slated for lights? I thought I read it, but I didn't see it here, so I wanted to ask.
Yeah. Your worship, through the council, you are correct. That is next year's job. Yep.
Anything further on street lighting? Okay, seeing none. Pages 18 to 20, we can do this together as development costs. Anything you'd like to highlight, Mr. Dehan?
Your worship, I can't think of anything specific. I mean, I can speak a little bit about everything, but that'll take too long.
Yeah.
So.
Councillor Lauder has a question for you.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Mr. Dehan. On page 19 and the first one, development 00021, says the Hartley Farm, the road construction Hartley Farm to Sally Creek. You tell me where that's actually going through there. It looks like there's all the houses and I don't know how it's going to squeeze a road through.
Oh, your worship, through the council, I wish I had a map. So you have the, where the Hartley Farm is. Well, it's not a farm anymore, but the development on 11th. I always get 10th, 11th mixed up. eventually, one of the roads in that development is supposed to go east and hook up and connect to Sally Creek. So Sally Creek's got kind of roughed in the road that kind of goes over that big box culvert right now towards the swim pond on the south end. You notice there's a little stub right behind the pub there, little stub street. That street's supposed to continue south and then curve to the west. So, and Sally Creek will be building that because it's part of their development. They've got a triangular piece of land out there. And when they get out to that far, then there's a piece that the city owns. And then the city will build, that's this money. The city will build that piece of road that will that will connect Sally Creek then to the Hartley Farm. So that there'll be continuity between the two, and people won't have to go all the way to 17 or down at Dundas in order to get from one to the other.
Because I live there and up in there and I keep thinking, where is this
Right.
road coming? And they keep building houses and building houses.
If you come into the office sometime, I'll show you on the map.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I'm going to throw that out there right now because you offered that. Just remind all of council at any point in time, we basically got about 3 weeks here before we're going to be voting on this. I encourage you strongly, sit down with city staff, ask your questions. Again, tonight, get you some basis points, and again, we got 3 weeks, so do some homework at that point and ask all the right questions.
You don't have to limit
Based on that.
questions to those 3 weeks either.
Well, that's
Anytime.
true, yes. But based on this budget I'm referring to, of course, but thank you. Any other questions for development costs? Councillor Lauder.
Again, through Mayor to Mr. DeHaan, number development 00025 Woodstock Meadows Road widening. So is that into the meadows, or is your road widening on number 17, County Road 17?
Your worship, through the council, yeah. So this is the development of the Meadows Golf Course into a residential subdivision. And the city pays for extra road width. Where we think a road is going to be acting more as a collector, we pay the developer for 1.5 meters extra width. And that's collected through DC. So really it's kind of a pass through. Developers pay DC charges every time they pull out a building permit. We collect that money. And then when we have a DC eligible project, we turn that money to pay for this. Also, that part of this money includes undevelopable frontage. So when a developer has to build a road that houses can only be on one side, we will usually pay for the other half of the road. If it's against a swim pond, say, where they can't recoup their costs, but we require them to have a swim pond, right? And so we'll pay for half the road in that case.
Any other questions before we move along? Okay, seeing none. Cost recoverable from developers. Touched on that briefly, but anything else in particular? It's a short section. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to new buildings, repairs and maintenance, which is page 22 to 25 for those following along at home. Any questions? Counselor Schadenberg?
Yeah, project number 0102. I know our CIO, David Curry, has mentioned that before, where we want to renovate the Market West End renovation project. What sort of is the state of that building now as far as, to me, 900,000 seems like a lot of money to renovate main floor and a second floor on a building, but it might also be extremely dated and extremely old.
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, I'll just try to address that, and Mr. Wallace is in the audience. He can step in for any additional questions. The 900,000, I think there's probably about 200,000 of that relates to the cost of installing an elevator to make use of that second floor. So it's a substantial portion of the project. The balance of it is basically interior renovations. And the condition of the building is it's tired. It's seen many tenants over the years, 25 years, and everything from office use to early childhood centers. So there's not much there that I would suggest we can try to reuse, so it will be a thorough interior renovation.
Answer that. Okay. Counselor Wheaton?
On that same line item, has there been funds spent to date on this project in this current fiscal year?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton, the answer is yes. We've retained an architect to develop the concept drawings. I don't have the figure at hand. It's not a significant figure. The project is still in the pre-design phase.
Counselor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, for item 00033, the Southgate Center renovation and addition, I just had a question about if there was some type of report in terms of the building structure. When I was looking at the City of Woodstock Energy Plan, dating back to 2016, just in terms of renewable energy, solar panels, or just anything, climate aligned with that overall building addition.
Your worship, through the counselor, plans are not far enough along really to tell you what energy conservation items might be included with that. Perhaps the CAO might know more in terms of what's included.
Worship, through to Councillor Leatherbarrow, the budget that is before council would not incorporate significant renewable energy or greenhouse gas emission elements to the building. The municipal energy plan, which was, I think, approved in principle by council back in 2016, I think set out the potential to reduce our energy usage on a community scale basis of by roughly 25% and greenhouse gas emissions by a similar amount. Referencing a 2013 energy baseline. And there was a number of options that were available in order to accomplish that. Things along the lines of like deep energy retrofits, where you very, very intensively take a design approach to the building envelope to maximize to an extreme degree the insulative resistance of that building, so that any amount of waste heat that exists in a building becomes a significant source of heat because you wrap the building so tight. So the budget that we have before us here for this building expansion would not include such significant costs such as that. But it's not to say that the building won't include some environmental features. And when the city does approach new builds, we do endeavor to try and incorporate environmental features where such can be included, can be done within the budget constraints, and where it makes sense. And in this particular case, there are some things I think that could be looked at. We have some surplus solar panels that are sitting on the Graham Street Hydro building. They're currently, all they're doing is reducing grid losses right now. So they're not producing any cash flow whatsoever. Because it was a formal electric utility. But those could certainly be disconnected. They could be relocated to the roof of an expanded Southgate Center. So things like that, they can be done without adding costs to the budget. And it's just going to be a net, it just be net billing. So it's not going to produce cash flow. It's just going to reduce the electrical bill for the facility. So things like that. I certainly think in terms of a parking lot reconstruction, I don't think we would be doing a parking lot reconstruction now without bringing hydro out to the parking lot for electrical vehicle plugins anymore. It's just normal course now. So things like this, I think they can be done within the constraints of the budget. They're not extremely costly. So it would be normal course of business for us to do something like this. The municipal energy plan Council received it, approved it, but it was subject to being able to access the funding to implement those kind of strategies that were identified in that study. The unfortunate reality is that when the federal government introduced a carbon tax on Ontario, we had hopes to see that there would be a funding reversal and there would be funds available to municipalities to take on projects for climate change. And the reality is that that hasn't materialized. So it very much becomes a funding question. How do you get the funding to pursue some of those ideas that were brought forward through that municipal energy plan?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wheaton.
I have a question on that same line item, building 00033 Southgate renovation and addition. As I went through the budget, I tried to parallel it to existing reports and other information and background. And so I went back to the recreation facility needs study from 2021 that was received for information by council in December of 2021. So it's a pretty current document. And I noticed on page 65, when it talks about adult space, older adult space, that it's also on the same category, joined together with a dedicated youth space. And I'm wondering, for a significant amount of money, $5-ish million, is there the potential to take a look at other uses, shared uses? The Southgate Center currently has 800-ish members. I'm hopeful that perhaps that new construction and renovated space could be used well beyond the existing membership that I'm sure will grow, confident will grow. But is there that potential to align with a document that we've put a lot of time and effort in developing already?
Sure. Yeah, well, this has certainly been talked about since I've been on council since 2014 at length. I remember at one point it was like $14 million and kind of trimmed it to try to be a little more suited. But I would probably ask Mr. Connors to come up to answer that, if that's okay. Councillor Wheaton? I think that's probably, no offense, Mr. Don. But I think this is more his area of, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to the councillor's question. The Southgate Center is our only older adult center. There can be some efficiencies if required to use for other usage, but it principally should be for older adults, and other members of the community could use that facility if the no further older adult time is used. It might be advantageous to discuss this with the members of Southgate. They are very good partners in providing the service. So that could be something that gets explored to make sure that we have the maximum usage, because buildings are, very expensive to build, and we want to make sure not only city-run buildings, but city-invested buildings get maximum use.
Councillor Wheaton?
Just as a follow-up then, the recommendation out of this report was for a shared adult and youth facility to be built at the future Cowan Field, which we also see on page 37 coming up on the budget. Are we building this twice?
Your Worship, through the councillor's question, whenever a consultant report comes in, they look at a lot of different factors, including our growth and population rate. This was for future use, and when they were discussing about a youth center, it wasn't a youth dedicated only center. These are for multi-purpose, multi-generational areas to be active. So whether it's an adult, older adult, it really doesn't matter. This is spaces for people to get active, spaces for people to engage as a community. So we would certainly, before we take any steps of building or redeveloping, we always look at, will we be able to fill this? We don't want to operate on the philosophy of build it and they will come. We want to make sure that when we are building this, there's going to be a capacity demand immediately.
Then do we have that justification for the current plan expansion for Southgate?
I believe, Your Worship, through to the councillor's question, I believe that the Southgate Centre has demonstrated that they have a demand for that. They have a pent up demand. And when you do look at the population and where it's heading, I think that demand will just continue to grow.
Any other questions? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Connors, just kind of going on from what Councillor Wheaton has mentioned. I don't think it's any shock to anybody that the price is pretty high for a center dedicated to one demographic of our population, but I think it does offer the ability for some rental space for events and such, as I know I have used Southgate Center's current facilities and it's in desperate need. This community is in desperate need of a larger facility, but I have to say that I'm sure there are times when the facility is empty, and I think that further investigation of some joint use would be very beneficial to our community. And just over the weekend, I've had feedback from folks in our community already questioning the price tag that's on this versus some expansion for a wider range of ages within our community, and questioning if there is the possibility of multi-use within that. So I think that investigating that a bit further with the folks at Southgate Center would be a great benefit to the community as a whole. And just questioning, I guess my question off of that is what how do we go about doing that? How do we start these discussions, and where do we start it to see if this is even a possibility?
Your Worship, through to the councillor's question, we could begin I would recommend that if we are beginning this, we would sit down with the board and with the leadership at Southgate and discuss this. I know they would have some concerns of a slippery slope where the community, where they have demonstrated, I think, quite clearly a need for seniors to have a location to be active, that wouldn't encroach on theirs. However, we could look at coming together, having some discussions about allocated times and how that would work. I would think that before we got ahead of ourselves, that type of meeting would need to take place. We could see what we could do as far as what the community needs and what and if there are times that can be used. So I think that would be the first step.
Councillor Tate.
Just through the chair, just for council's benefit, it would be beneficial for those people questioning Southgate would maybe talk to the person in charge. We have over 100 groups using that facility, and I find that insulting that it would be insinuated that it's not used to the full potential. I have been there a number of times, and the nights it's packed, and it's not with the seniors, it's with different groups. This community has been very supportive of this facility. We raised over 500,000, I think 20 years ago in this community, and this community now has raised another $1 million. So I have never in my 20 years of council had anybody complain about that facility. This is the first time I've heard of it in the last 3 days. I know there's been a bunch of questions, but I've never heard of it. I go door to door. I've never heard of it. This facility is overdue being the expansion. It's bursting at the seams. Just for historical value, we used to fund some of the programs. We only own the building and this facility funds everything themselves. We have a hockey arenas, we have basketball, we have soccer, we have pools, we have the art gallery, museum. I could give you a whole list and we subsidize all those facilities for our use. This is for the older generation. The youth use it because there's all kinds of programs in it. I have a list of over 100. I think it's beneficial that we do our homework, understand this is a small price for this to pay for what this building does. And you have to remember, when people are out and they're exercising and they're socializing, it's a beneficial to their health. So instead of going on our medical costs, we pay one way or the other. There's only one taxpayer. So this is very beneficial to the citizens in this city. So I'm just actually really upset about the whole thing because the people in our community believe in this facility. Otherwise, why did they give the money? One of the major funders of this is appalled that this is going on. So how are we going to fundraise going forward when we're going to question now why we're doing it? This has been in the works, as Mayor Accioni said, since he's been on since 14. We have had this facility since I've been on this, and it's been the work that they've done have been amazing. And to take it over, and we're not subsidizing. Yes, we own the building and it's an asset to us, but we don't subsidize anything else. The community does that.
Councillor Wismer.
Through the chair to Councillor Tate, I think that what you've outlined there is exactly what the problem is. There's very little communication, very little transparency, and there are a very large number of people in the community that don't know all of these details. And that's where we as council can ask these questions and have these things discussed in an open forum where these things can be educate and raise awareness. And I think it's just discussions. And I too have utilized the facilities at Southgate Center. I know that Chris Cunningham and her crew do an amazing job, and by no means am I questioning the work they do. It's fantastic work. It's just questions that are coming from the community that are being brought forward. And that's what my job is here, is just to ask these questions and see what the possibilities are. And that's of no disrespect to anybody in here representing Southgate Center.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I just want to say that the city provides programming from, as is said, 9 months to 99 years. Southgate is filling a gap that it's not filled for the more mature people of our community. And and it is busy. I know now, and I go down for exercise, we can no longer use the full gym because there's not room for the other ones that want to use it. So we are in a little space of, I think usually it could be 25 people in there. And it's just half of the gym now. And the music from the other area could be the line dancing or whatever is going on there. And our music, we have to keep it down so that we're not interfering with one another. So the need is there. And it's not just for the more mature people of the city. It is for all these other organizations that come in. It can be organizations of youth. It's many different organizations. Like there's about 98 that utilize that. And so that is a form of how they can keep the place in operation, because other organizations have to pay a fee to use it. So, and it's run with approximately 300 volunteers, which if the city had to pay for this and provide programming for seniors, that would be probably in the neighborhood of $1 million. So it's these volunteers do a great job, and it's very well run. And our Southgate is well known throughout Ontario, if not beyond. In fact, Chris, in the last few weeks, has had calls from Burlington and I think Edmonton, Mississauga, that they come here to see how well ours is run. I know that with the sister city, when they come up for the parade, they're already organizing to go through our facilities and find the good uses that we have here. And they hope to be able to take some things back to their own city. And we've been in contact with them. So I just want to make those comments that that they're doing a great job. We've raised the $1 million. And I think that this project is something that has to go forward, because otherwise the people of Woodstock is going to give up on the faith of if they're expanding. Thank you.
Councillor Schadenberg.
Thanks a lot from your mayor. I guess just a comment. I attended, before I was even on city council, an open house on October 25th, 2017. Now, the reason I know the exact same date of that event is because I Googled the event. Google should be your friend, and you can find lots of information about how things have transpired over time with different committees and organizations within the city of Woodstock, whether it be a facility or even something like the Woodstock District Community Complex and plans on that. So anyway, I Googled the event, so I know it was open house was October 25th, 2017. Just a few days after, on October 19th, 2017, the Southgate Center came to City Council with this nice plan. In fact, you can almost call it a grandiose plan for the time that included a triple gymnasium. So maybe they were a little bit far-fetched at that point in time, maybe slightly. So they downsized it a little bit and said, well, what could really make sense to make a terrific over 50s facility in the city of Woodstock? And it was on October the 3rd, 2019. That's 3 years ago. That's how long we've been working on fundraising and putting this in a budget. That's a 5-year rolling budget that we use to sort of say, well, now this is kind of finally arrived in 2023 that we go ahead with this project. And there's people at the Southgate Center that you really have to pat them on the back for having the patience and really to some degree, even the courage to wait this long for a project that's going to be 2-3 years in the making. And now we're finally arriving to 2023 and it's time to get it done. And I've taken a look again at the pictures for what is projected for 2023 to be built. And I think it's very suitable for the city of Woodstock.
Councillor Tate.
Yeah, just for the final comment, I think the whole process has been extremely transparent. When you're doing a fundraising in the community, I don't know how much more transparent you can get or how much information. I mean, if you don't want to know, I guess you don't. But as Councillor Schadenberg said, just Google it. I mean, it's been as transparent as any project that we do in this city. It's right there. So if we're going to be transparent, let's discuss what this is really about. If somebody wants a youth center instead of this is what this discussion is about. But this discussion is about this Southgate Center, and it's long overdue. And we've had these discussions for years over this, and the fundraising is done.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your mayor to David Creary, just for clarification as we navigate forward, are questions welcomed or? Because I think there was just general questions about youth and the Southgate Center, and it seems that it's become a little bit hostile, I guess, with opinions. So I'm just wondering if questions are encouraged by new council members to just ask, figuratively speaking, questions.
Your worship, perhaps you would be most appropriate to address the question.
Questions are absolutely welcome, but may I remind you, this is only one evening. There is how many millions of dollars here? Tonight is maybe not the exact night, I think, for some of these questions. You've had this document for a while. I do believe you should have been sitting down with any staff members, especially some of these are fairly serious questions. Okay. This is not always the time and the place. This is a place to come, in my opinion, in 8 years where you have sat down with staff already, you have formatted your questions and you want to put them out in public. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with questions. I realize questions come up as well. But in this case, being someone that has been on this council for 8 years and working on this, I tend to disagree with Councillor Wismer Van Meer. I'm sorry. It has been extremely transparent. There have been many meetings. There's been many county meetings talking about this. There's been presentations out at Southgate Center. I'm just maybe surprised at the question, the way it was formed as well. So all I would say to that is questions are always welcome. Yes,
Thank you
But-
for the clarification.
yes. Do encourage all of council, new and old, sit down with counties or city staff, I'm sorry, and ask the questions, please. Okay, and I say county because I'm going through that right now as new to county, so that's why it's in my head. My apologies. Because I'm doing that right now. Counselor Schattenberg.
I guess, again, maybe this is just gonna be a comment, could be a question, but for example, earlier, Counselor Deb Tate said that, well, maybe Miller Street should be pushed up to 2023 because we have to catch up on construction. So when our council meeting arrives on December 15th, we shouldn't be surprised if even on the agenda or outside of the agenda, there might be a motion from Counselor Deb Tate that says, well, let's spend $300,000 on Miller Street in 2023. I don't want to see any kind of a item showing up on December's, this will suggest you which way I'm going to vote, on December 15th budget meeting when we're finalizing the capital budget for 2023. And somebody's making a motion to suggest, well, no, let's not spend 5 million on Southgate Center. Let's put it off for 2 more years to talk about it.
I guess I'm gonna stop this as well. I think we have an opportunity here. The Southgate Center has been talked about for a very long time. I'm very encouraged to see this moving forward. It's no secret. I think we have an opportunity here, and that's a completely different discussion, in my opinion, for youth. You know, we've been talking about that for a little while. I do believe Southgate Center, that segment of the population is going to get what they're looking for. It is our job as a council now to start working on the next step, and I believe one of that major ones is the youth. So I look forward to doing that together. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? We are on pages 22 to 25, new buildings, repairs and maintenance. Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Page 26, we'll finish Mr. DeHaan off with transit. Anything you'd like to highlight there?
Your worship, through the council, yeah, as you see, there's a regular program for replacement or placing new bus shelters. The other big one is replacing city buses. And the one right below that is a regular bus rehabilitation. So just to let you know, we plan, kind of anticipating a comment there, we kind of plan on a life cycle of 18 years for a bus. And about halfway through, depending on how the bus is behaving, we like to do basically a big rehab on it, which is basically rebuilding the motor, new transmission, replacing any fixtures in the bus that need to be happening. So yeah, so that's kind of how that whole schedule is worked out there.
Any questions of council? Counselor Tate?
I just want to comment, sometimes we get a little hot in here. I've been at county council and we've yelled at each other, but that's part of the discussion, and normally we leave the chamber after, but that's part of council. We have different opinions and that's part of the discussion. So no offense to people, it's just the way that it goes.
Actually, I'm going to say thank you for that, because you're right. Now, back to buses. Any questions on transit? I do have a brief one. Going by memory here, and with all the delays and everything else, do we have our new buses yet?
Your worship, I know one bus has shown up. The second bus, and you're referring to the buses we ordered, I think 2 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
this is
Yes.
going back a
Yeah.
couple of years.
One
so-
of them just showed up last month, and I think the other one, if it hasn't showed up yet, is due to show up very soon. Neither one of them's on the road yet because we still have to do all the markings and everything, put the fare boxes on and the city markings and all that kind of stuff.
Mr. Locke is behind you going like this.
Okay.
So I'm assuming so.
They're probably
Just so you
cluttering
know.
up his yard, so, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
All right, anything else for Mr. Don? All right, moving along. Fire Department, page 27 to 28. And Deputy Chiefs, sorry, I was just gonna call the chief up. Sorry, thank you.
Your worship, thank you, councilors. We only have a few items, so I'm gonna go through the items point by point. FIR 00017 thermal imaging camera replacement. Just for the edification of the councilors and yourself, your worship, thermal imaging cameras are life safety equipment that we use to detect hotspots in fires, find for personal safety, find other firefighters, and so on. So we use them as personal devices. You're able to see through smoke and products of combustion to see what kind of basically what we see in this room right now. So you'd see it on television shows, maybe as they'd use it, but just to talk about that, that's what those are. And we're asking for $30,000 for replacement. That's of replacement of current equipment that we have that is beyond its service life. The next item is FIR 00026 replacement fire apparatus engine 1. American LaFrance is what ALF stands for, pumper. And that is a $1 million ask. American LaFrance, just also for the group here, that is spelled out because that company is no longer in existence. That company has gone bankrupt, and finding parts for that particular piece of apparatus is an extreme challenge. And it's honestly, they're going to scrap yards to literally find parts for these apparatus around the country and around North America for that matter. The last one part that we got for that apparatus came from Texas. It was new, but it came from Texas. FIR 00030 live fire stair tower 5th floor. And that's $195,000. We were fortunate enough to get approval and install a live fire tower at our training facility a few years ago. And we have, because of delays in the procurement and the delivery of that, the vendor actually gave us another module, which is on the 5th story of our facility, and we don't have stairs that go to it. We've been able to use it for training evolutions using our aerial devices and so on. It's not gone unused, but it would be nice to have a stairs that would further the training and abilities of the fire department. And your worship, that's all the items.
Any questions from Councillor Wheaton?
Because I like to be consistent, what is the lifespan of a pumper truck?
That's a good question. Your worship, through to the councillor's question. The lifespan is 10 years frontline service, 15 years reserve. So as I said, we're asking for early replacement of this apparatus because of the ability to procure parts and keep it in service. We have sustained even though this is a reserve apparatus, when one of our frontline apparatus is out of service for whatever reason, maintenance reason, this truck is put into service. Furthermore, we use it if we have a callback situation, a large event, like maybe just next door, and those trucks get put into frontline service because the frontline trucks would be at a major event like that, and to staff the stations to facilitate other calls, those trucks are placed in service on a regular basis. So the challenge that we're facing with this particular apparatus again is the state of the company that built it. Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, because parts are so hard. We should be able to get a pretty good dollar though, if we're gonna sell this afterwards, I would assume.
You know, the challenge, your worship, to that question is, the last fire apparatus we sold, I can't recall the exact number. I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 was the return. The return, there was a question earlier about the value of street sweeping equipment. It sounds like there's more of a market for street sweeping equipment than fire apparatus, at least for as a return goes. Because of the restraints put on fire apparatus for service life, that NFPA standard applies to everyone. So unless you're a municipality that wants to take on that risk of having a truck that doesn't meet the standard, the challenge would be that you're putting your municipality in a liability situation. So the market for those, other than maybe private collectors or people that want them to utilize them for something else outside of fire service, there's not much value in them, unfortunately.
Maybe there's another Lions Club somewhere looking for a fire.
Well, and you know, honestly, I was going to say they get utilized in parades and
Yeah.
and things like that for, you know, just that reason, right? Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on fire tonight? Again, this is a fairly big ticket at times. Encourage you to sit down. Chief, deputy chief's always willing to answer questions I've found over the years, so don't hesitate.
And this, the ask is significant, but as it is demonstrated by other divisions here, the price of those fire apparatus has gone up significantly due to COVID and supply chain demand issues and et cetera.
Certainly know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No other question? Oh, Councillor Wheaton.
In my conversation with the email conversation with the chief earlier, he did point out 2027. I'm pleased to see the new substation for substation number 3 planned for the north. 2027 feels like a long time away, as we have a growing population up there. Is that soon enough?
That's a good question. Through you, your worship, to the councillor's question. You know, we do assessments on response times, and we haven't done one recently, but we keep tabs on those on a regular basis. Obviously, councillor, that would be dependent on the growth on that side of the river, on that side of the city. Plus, if the city has any plans for annexation on that side of the river, it would maybe need to be bumped up if the city chose to go that way. I can't state right now. We don't have any plans on that right now. I was privy to the email that the chief forwarded to me. I think as the chief explained it, the current plans to put it for 2027 is as it is right now. If the need arose, yes, we could maybe potentially have to ask council to expedite that.
I'll just remind all the council too, remember, this is just, we look forward ahead. So of course, it's going to be readdressed every year, just like the new pumper truck is this year.
Correct.
instead of
Yeah.
Future. So
Yeah, we had
the
that
need
in
is-
a
yeah.
certain number in the budget, and we had to adjust it based on the climate.
yeah, a few years early. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Your
much.
worship. Thank you, councillor.
Parks Department, Mr. Connors, ask you to come up again. Yeah. So now we're on to pages 29 to 33, again, for everybody following along. Would you like to go page by page?
I think that's probably the best
Okay.
way to go.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll start with page 29, if you may. Thank you.
Just as far as opening remarks, I'll just cover some of the highlights for parks, and then we can go page by page, I guess, from there.
Thank you.
For parks, some of the bigger asks our continuing trail development. This would be the sliver portion of the trail to keep that going as we're trying to get a loop around the Piddock Dam. The other piece would be a cricket pitch, and that would be at Cowan Fields. And the other larger is finishing off the development of Homer Brown Park revitalization. So those are kind of the three big ticket items in parks for 2023. But obviously we can go through this page by page and look at future as well as 2023.
If you may, just to speed things up a little bit, we'll go 29 and 30 right now. First for council. Councillor Lauder.
Think through the mayor to Mr. Connors, and maybe Rita wants to answer this on the winter lights, which is PKS 00050, and the new decorations. I know the Museum Square is beautiful right now, and I just wondered if we could have a little hint as to what might happen with the amount 75,000 that is proposed in this budget.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. Does the park supervisor want to answer that, or do you want? Yeah.
Through your worship, to the councilor's question. So part of that money, we'd like to purchase a couple new displays for Museum Square to add to what we have there. One of the items I've been looking at is a large Santa sleigh with a few reindeer. So it'd be 3D unit, fully lit. It includes a bench seating, so there's photo opportunities as well. So that's one of the pieces that we're looking at purchasing with that money.
I did have a little sneak preview of it, and it really sounds exciting. So thank you for looking into that. Thank you.
Any other questions for page 29 and 30? Seeing none. 30 to 31, sorry, 31 to 32. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the mayor to Brian Connors. I guess maybe I do want to go back on page number 30. I know we've got cricket fields currently in the city of Woodstock at Southside Park. That's been there for generations. And there's another one at the Southwood Park next to St. Mary's High School. Was the plan to retire one of those two to build a sort of regulation there for a park at Cowan Fields for cricket players?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. The cricket pitch that was put in at Southwood was kind of we did that on an emergency basis. It's a temporary field. It's not really a proper cricket pitch, but there was real community demand from a club that played at a level that wouldn't be able to play at Southside, just given the level of play there. They would hit the ball too far and it would be dangerous. So the field at Southside Park is more of a recreational field, and some of the competitors now in Woodstock play well beyond that.
Thanks. I really do applaud the Parks Department for going forward with this as a plan for Cowan Fields.
Actually agree. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Then we'll finish off to the end to page 33. Any other questions from council? Light on. Councillor Schadenberg.
Again, a question through to Brian Connors. As you know, I've been on the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board now for 4 years. I know there's some talk when it comes to things like the turtles and Ducks Unlimited, and we've had representatives here from Ducks Unlimited speak to council, but Scott Gillingwater from the UTRCA has lots of plans too. When it comes to building this Brick Ponds turtle fencing, would that be to replace what's already there? Because it looks like it was already somewhat refurbished along the Brick Pond wetlands stretch there on Springbank already.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. This is to purchase turtle resistant fencing along, I know that sounds strange, along Springbank. Turtles actually climb a lot of the fences as well. So this is to make sure they don't get onto Springbank Road. The fencing that is there is would just stop the turtles that really don't want to get across, but the ones that do just go right around it or through it. So.
Actually, that was a very good presentation, actually, when they came to us last year on that one. So I do encourage council to watch that one if you want more information, because that was quite interesting. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Connors. Being affiliated with one of the local ball leagues and a couple of the different ones, there's a lot of concern about the safety at Fanshawe Complex, especially the back diamond. I'm not sure if this falls in anywhere here. I've had discussions with a couple of the other staff of the city, including Chris Curran in the past. The sun is directly in the face of everybody playing infield when you're playing the back complex diamond. Is there any possibility within budgets, within what we're seeing here, to create some kind of backstop that allows sunblock? We tried something this year and we appreciate what was done. Unfortunately, it just didn't work. The sun is, as an infielder myself, you do not see a yellow ball coming at you when you are playing infield on the back diamond. It's just a safety concern, I think, on a few of the different leagues that play in this city.
Your worship, through the councillor's question. Yes, under sport field safety netting. So that's at Jack done safety netting for front and back complex. The Parks Department is also going to use the funds to try to put in what's called a batter eye screening. So that'll be a little higher. Unfortunately, the way that ball diamond is situated, there will always be a problem. Hopefully this helps to mitigate it, but there is a certain time in the day when the sun does drop that it is an issue, and it always has been. But hopefully with this extra piece, it should minimize the sun glare.
I'll second that one. As a third baseman and a shortstop myself that have played there, that's pretty bad some times of the year. So please, thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? Councillor Leatherborough.
Yes, I just had a question about 00076 Cowan Sportsplex spray pad, and it looks like it's slated for 2025 potentially on page 31. Zero 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 76. Yeah. Would that be in replacement of anything like the Van Setter splash pad, or just addition to?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, this would be an addition to. However, if you notice, it would probably be about like a little closer to Van Sitter's spray than it would be to like a Cowan field. It would just be for folks that use this to kind of get a little wet, as one sibling's playing soccer, the other can, use that, or they, a lot of times soccer teams end up trouncing through splash pads after they're sweating through their games. That's what that is. It wouldn't be a huge splash pad, but it would certainly have some water feature.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Page 34, recreation programs, Mr. Connors.
Let's see. Really on this section, the only thing I would highlight is there is some rec and camp equipment, which would be balls, floor hockey netting, inclusive equipment, and some equipment for flag football. So there's not a lot there.
Yeah, it's only $15,000. Yeah.
Mhm.
Any questions of council? Sorry, Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your mayor, in terms of sports camps, just in general, this is a very general question, so I hope I deliver it properly. But it seems since we're hopefully on the other side or coming out the other side of the pandemic, spaces are limited for camps. Is there any forecasting of creating more spaces? Sometimes there's a wait list. Like I've had quite a few conversations with families that have either moved here in the last few years or just started having more children. And their concern is both daycare and then in the summer, just trying to get those timers on to make the list.
Your worship, through the councillor's question. We have been expanding camps. Last year, we expanded it a lot. I believe kind of COVID fatigue had a lot to do with that. We'll continue to expand. Some of our challenges has been to get camp counselors as well as space, but we have some very talented full-time staff that are very dedicated to the camp program and growing it. And they, you know, in discussing with them, their plans are to keep expanding camp until, you know, we don't need to expand anymore. So there will be more places and more camps and different types of offerings being put in the works.
And just one more question. In terms of like when I was a kid, a camper, it was the leadership and training programs, the LIT. Do we offer those types of services or partner with schools, either pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, just to get more kiddos trained to fall into those roles?
Your worship, through the councillor's question, yes, we do have a leadership and training program, and we do run that, and we've had that going for, I believe, 3 or 4 years now. So.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so many questions on this page. Can you just explain to me what esports gaming equipment is?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. This is something we are looking into more and more. It's basically esports. It's gaming. It's therapy, and it's fitness. It would entail part of us offering this would mean getting fiber optics to the center. So it's not coming yet, but it would just be another offering for folks in the community, and it would we'd like to see it cover a lot of areas. So e-gaming is certainly taken off, and it's another way to get other people in the building that maybe aren't into sports, but they're into gaming, and we want to see as many folks through the doors as we can.
Again, this is why I'm encouraged your department is looking at trying to attract the different youth at different segments that don't necessarily play baseball or, play soccer or hockey and everything else. So this is fantastic. Yeah, welcome that for sure. Any other questions before we move along to aquatics? Seeing none, we are on pages 35 and 36 for Southside Aquatic Center and the Lions Pool. Man, oh man, that Lions Pool is hanging on.
So to touch base on the aquatics one, there is several pieces to note. The one that's looks to be that we're proposing to go first would be to build a new splash pad. That would be at Southside. The location that is preferred is right beside Southside's existing playground, between the playground and the ball diamond. So it would make a large unit. What that would do would be allow us to later close the wading pool. So the area with the large bucket, what we'd get out of that is that area is nearing the end of its life. So we figured that if we moved it to, change it from a wading pool to a splash pad, we no longer need to guard it. And there's only a few inches of water. So that's really not the playability of the piece. And then we could not put any charge to it. So it would be free for the community and we'd be able to provide longer operating hours. The other benefit to that is it would allow us to extend the change room area. And you see this in the budget in future years because we need more community change space in Southside Aquatic Center. We still have enough water, but we don't have enough change space. And that's particularly problematic during our Learn to Swim, which is, really our most important time. And that's helping teach the community how to swim. So that's where it's really needed. And then the other piece would be the recommendation to close Lions Pool and move the outdoor pool right beside Southside Center. This way, when we do need another indoor pool space, we could cover the space and it would save us quite a bit on the operating side by having basically two pools side by side. There's a lot of staffing and mechanical savings that would bring in the future. So that is basically the same as what we've been saying in the aquatic report from 2019. So we're just following that. But really this year is the first step in the rubber hitting the road from that report.
There's no vehicles here to ask how long it's gonna live. No. Councillor Whedon, I'm sorry, I'm just teasing.
Item that you were just speaking of, 0002, the splash pad design. I think this is a fantastic project. I think this is what young parents are looking for, the lack of standing water, the more splash pad features. Do we have a rough idea of what the savings would be on labor and insurance to transition to this style of splash pad as opposed to what we currently have?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, I do not have the insurance piece. Given insurance companies, I don't know if it would go down too much, but as far as the labor, we do have lines in our operating budget that are dedicated to staffing the wading pool. So those lines would be removed and that would be a direct, the direct savings.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your mayor to Mr. Connors for 00025 Lions Pool liner repair. If this was the last summer of the Lions Pool, would you still need to repair that liner this year to use it?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. The Lions Pool liner, and the reason we have 10K in for that is that it is like when it was kind of put to bed this summer, it really was in trouble. And this money is in here that when we open it, we wouldn't have to come back to council for emergency money should it rip. We have done that in the past. I believe 9 years ago, we had to go and ask for emergency money for the liner because part of it had ripped. So this would just be literally band-aiding pieces of liner onto the pool. But really that's where we are with this pool to keep it going. And we don't want to, we only get 2 or 3 months of outdoor water. And I'd hate just because when we opened it, we had a liner rip, we knock that in half. So that's why that's there. If we need to use the whole amount, we would, but if we didn't, that, we obviously wouldn't put money to a liner if it's not needed.
Thanks.
This has been discussed for a very long time. This line's cool. Any other questions here for aquatics? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Pages 37 to 38, Community Complex and Civic Center.
So just to highlight a piece that's coming up in 2023. This is a golf hall renovation. So this was just going to be the golf hall floor replacement. And this is the floor was originally it is the original floor. So it's quite tired, especially after all the use from public health and the COVID. We still have lines on the floor. But what we're proposing here is to change the usage a bit. So it was originally planned for a large meeting space and for wedding venues. So it's certainly a hall. What we'd like to do is to make it more into a gym. So it will still be able to be used for all large meeting spaces. That will still happen. It can still be used for the blood donor clinic, all the other things that go in here, but it will have the benefit of being able to do sports as well. So pickleball, basketball, volleyball. When we converted Reeves Hall to Reeves Courts at the Sportsplex, we had an overwhelming amount of use, and there's still that demand. So this is to help offset that demand and to maximize use of an indoor space.
Councillor Schattenberg.
From the mayor through to Brian Connors, this, I guess, I'll ask you that as a question. What's the long-term prognosis there for the kitchen at Golf Hall?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, as part of this renovations, part of that kitchen space would be used for storage, because it would be a multi-use gym. We'd need the space to move pieces out. However, part of it would still be used for meetings, to be able to heat things up, or to be able to have some service area. So that service window would still be available.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Connors, just on top of what you said there, would there still be the availability for licensed events? For example, fundraising events and such within the community? Would that, what I would call bar area, still be accessible for folks when they need to rent it?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, yes, that roll-up area could certainly be used as a bar.
If I can comment to that as well, that's something, correct me if I'm wrong, Southgate Center is looking to also do with their new space, trying to get more of that rental market. So we're not always using that up. So it gives us free time to have the courts. Is that correct?
Your worship, through to your question, yes, that certainly would be. And we have found, and one of the reasons that was kind of a driver to change this over was we have, like, the golf hall hasn't been very successful anymore as a wedding venue. In 2019, so this is pre-pandemic, we had about $700 in wedding revenue only. So we don't have a lot of people coming to do their receptions here. There's other places, other venues, the Southgate Center, if they're doing it, would be an addition to that. And we're finding that, more people are going to destination weddings, other spaces around Oxford County. And it's just not bringing in the revenue that it used to.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, in terms of that kitchen, before this renovation, hypothetically, is it rented out for people to prepare food or health inspected? I mean, I know a lot of small businesses are always looking for kitchens to kind of get their businesses off the ground, and looking for that cooperative type space to prepare food to then sell.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. There is a full kitchen. However, it hasn't been used since before COVID. So I'm not sure like how well the equipment is being used. What we would do with the kitchen we would have to have those items go up for auction. There'd still be a place to kind of prepare warm stuff, but it wouldn't be a full use kitchen. Speaking to the facility manager, it in the past 5 or 6 years has had minimal use. A lot of times when folks do come in for events, it's already cooked and they're just looking for a place to heat it up.
Any other questions? Okay, moving along. Cowan Park, pages 39 and 40. Mr. Connors, anything you want to highlight?
Let me just see. Yes, your worship, in Cowan Park, one of the things that we're recommending is a facility redevelopment. So this would be the boardroom at Cowan Park. We'd like to change this over, there's an alcove right beside the boardroom, and make this into a community room. This would allow for more community space. It would provide an area, another programming area that again is needed. And this is kind of our philosophy. Before we want to build something new, we want to make sure that our existing spaces, kind of every empty nook and cranny should be used up. So we're planning that for 2023. And then for 2024, again, we have an unused kitchen where we would be looking at a boardroom, and this is where we would hope to redevelop that and also use this for potentially, this is where the esports area would be in that unused kitchen space. So that's what that piece is looking at.
Any questions of council on that? No? All right. Seeing none. Special events, Mr. Connors.
There's only 2 pieces on the special events. One is for a City of Woodstock tent, and this would be a replacement. And the other would be to buy some cord ramps for special events. Every year we have to rent these, and this would knock off some of the rental costs, because we do need this when we are stringing electrical cords through the park.
Any question of council? Well, we were far too easy on you.
You were. That's why I'm leaving.
Thank you very much. Moving along to Miss Reed, Art Gallery. Page 42, please. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So there's only the 2 items on the budget. One of them is their art acquisition fund. The gallery does have a reserve fund. So the $10,000 allows us to draw out from that fund to make key purchases to fill in the gaps in our collection. So these are works that would not necessarily come to us through donations. Most recently, we've purchased contemporary work by Indigenous female artists, Maxine Noel and Lee Claremont. And from time to time, we will see works that come up by Florence Carlyle's students. So we were able to nab a beautiful little Eva Bradshaw for a song, actually. So I said, oh, we can't let it go for $100. So that's what that fund is used for. And then the acquisition fund is then topped up through our revenue fund budget. So we're just sort of rolling that over. The next item is our 4th floor development, and the funds that you see there are contingent on the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Grant. So hopefully we will know in about 6 weeks' time, fingers and toes crossed, whether in fact that funds will come in, and that will activate our fourth floor. Again, looking to expand the fourth floor for education programming, multi-flex use space. I'm hoping that we'll see more weddings at the gallery. Maybe it's a little bit more attractive. And really trying to continue to diversify the revenue streams for the art gallery to ensure its long-term sustainability.
Any questions of council? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mrs. Reed. I guess my question is it like a Trillium Fund when you apply for a grant like this, that you know there's X number of dollars out there and you're hoping for the largest piece of the pie possible? Or is it a yes or no kind of an ask? And if so, what sort of is the number you're hoping for?
Well,
If you get
so through the worship to the counselor's question, the number is exactly what you see right here on the form. So $941,000. This fund is quite large. This is considered actually a very small ask. And from what I can glean from all the various back and forth with the grant officers, and then trying doing a little bit of back channel politicking, all points seemed that it's going to move quite well. So I'm very encouraged that that's going to happen.
Councillor Lauder.
Thanks, Mary. I just have to say to the rest of the council here, Mary's a great grant writer. She seems to squeeze money out of so many things. So, thank you for that, because it helps us all and the taxpayers and all of us. So I just wanted to let the new councillors know that the job you do is on grant ready.
Thank you very much. I also want you to notice that I'm very on brand for the city of Woodstock tonight. Thanks, Bryce.
I didn't want to call you out. Oh, Councillor Wheaton. Sorry, Miss Reed. You have one more
That's
question.
okay. You go sit down. I just wanted to say thank you for the tour that you gave to me earlier and answering my questions. Really helped understand the inner workings of the gallery. And the vision for that fourth floor really is incredible. And I really think it'll finish off the building and be a tremendous asset to the city. So thank you for your time and sharing with me this week.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Actually, it will encourage everyone at home to make sure they get out and check out what we have. And some of their events, it's no secret, are some of our favorites to attend. So in all the years, Mary Reed, you just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. Moving along to library. Lindsay Harris. Not here. Okay. Any questions that the CAO can answer? They don't have anything for next year, so seeing none. I will ask the chief to come on up. We'll go to page 44 and chief and deputy chief, or doesn't he back up here? We're not that threatening. You can do this on your own, he says.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't have my yellow sheet in front of me for numbers. Perfect. Makes it easy. I wasn't going to speak about the radio reserve project. The CEO might have to help me with that 500,000 there.
We'll call upon the CAO then.
Yes, your worship. I'm through Councillor Wheaton's question. Is this your question or?
Oh, I know the question. The question was, are radio systems interoperable?
Are our
Yes.
emergency radio systems interoperable? Okay. That would be a great question for the chief.
I really thought it was an easy one. I was gonna get a yes. Or
They
no,
are, yes, they are, but there is encryption on them. And so it would require dialing to a common channel in order to intercommunicate between them, but for obvious reasons, there is encryption on the individual.
But in the event of a mass event,
Yes.
then they,
Yes,
you can communicate A to B
communicate.
to C to D.
yes.
Well, there you go. That was answered. Eh?
Oh, that was easy.
That was easy.
Is there anything
No
else?
wonder he sent you
Anything
up by
else?
yourself.
Anything else we need to talk about?
Is there any other questions from council? And again, big department, strongly suggest you've got some great people working there. Please ask them to sit down if you have any questions direct. Well, you got off easy tonight, Chief. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end. Counselors are requested to forward their suggested amendments to council, the CAO, and the Director of Administrative Services by December 9th, 2022 for inclusion in the December 15th agenda. As all items were covered this evening, the alternate meeting for Thursday, November 24th, 2022 is not required. And if there's nothing else from the CEO or clerk, any other questions? I'll call for an adjournment. Moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. All those in favor? Carried, none opposed. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to all the staff for coming tonight. Appreciate it.